It was one of those stormy afternoons where the sky seemed to cry louder than the people who walked beneath it. Rain fell in angry sheets, drumming hard against windows, pounding sidewalks like it wanted to break the world open. In a small, worn-down neighborhood on the edge of the city, the gutters overflowed, flooding the cracked pavement, and people rushed inside to escape the wrath of the skies. But not 14-year-old Malik. His mother had told him once, "Rain don't stop real heroes. It just makes their story harder to ignore." He didn't know what she meant at the time, but today, he was about to find out. Malik was no stranger to hardship. His sneakers had holes in the soles, his school backpack was stitched together with hope and worn fabric, and dinner wasn't always guaranteed. His father had disappeared when he was 6, and his mother worked 2 jobs just to keep the lights on. Still, she raised him right, taught him to never look away when someone needed help, even if the world looked away from him every single day. As he made his way home from school, drenched to the bone and shivering under his thin hoodie, Malik took his usual shortcut through the back alley behind a row of high-end townhouses. He wasn't supposed to be there. The security guards in the area often told him to stay out, treating him like a criminal just for existing near wealth. But today, the alley held something unusual, something terrifying. A car had spun out on the slick road and crashed into a light pole, its front end crumpled like paper. Smoke hissed from the hood, and the driver's door swung open slowly. Malik froze. Inside, a white woman with wide, panicked eyes was struggling to move. Her face was pale, lips trembling, and one hand clutched a very pregnant belly. "Help!" she cried, voice cracking like glass. "Please, I think I'm going into labor." Most people would have run for help, but not Malik. He didn't have time to find someone else. He ran to her side, ignoring the smoke, ignoring the pain as hot steam burned his hand when he opened the passenger door. "Ma'am, I got you," he said, his voice steady even though his heart raced. "I'm gonna help you. Just breathe, okay?" He climbed into the car and helped her unbuckle, then gently guided her out into the rain. The woman screamed as another contraction hit. There was no time to wait for an ambulance. Malik didn't own a phone, and hers was shattered on the dashboard. So, with trembling arms and sheer willpower, he helped her to a nearby covered patio and laid her down on a bench. He wrapped her coat around her shoulders, then shouted at passing cars for help. Most ignored him, just a soaked black kid yelling in the rain. But he didn't stop. Finally, a woman pulled over and called 911. Malik stayed with the pregnant woman the whole time, whispering calming words his mom used to say when things got bad at home. "You're strong. You're safe. I'm right here." By the time the ambulance arrived, the baby was crowning. Malik held her hand as she screamed through it, never once flinching or letting go, even when his small hand nearly got crushed in hers. When the paramedics took over, they looked at Malik with something between awe and disbelief. "Kid, what's your name?" one of them asked, but Malik didn't answer. He was already walking away, disappearing into the rain, shoes soaked, heart pounding, tears mixing with the storm. He didn't know the woman's name. He didn't know she was married to one of the wealthiest tech millionaires in the city. He didn't know that she would survive, nor that the baby would be born minutes later, healthy, alive, and strong. All Malik knew was that he'd done what was right, that he hadn't looked away, that maybe, just maybe, someone's life would be a little brighter tonight because he didn't let the world tell him who he was supposed to be. The hospital room smelled like sterile sheets and quiet miracles. Evan Blackstone stood frozen at the foot of his wife's bed, staring at the newborn child nestled gently in her arms. The baby girl's tiny fist curled around her mother's finger, and for the first time in years, Evan felt something shift inside him. Fear, gratitude, humility. He had built empires, disrupted industries, and made headlines as the man who turned code into gold. But nothing, not a single IPO, not a single standing ovation in a conference room, had ever made his knees buckle like seeing his wife alive after that phone call. "Your wife was in a serious accident. She's being taken to St. Mary's. She's in labor." The words had broken something in him. And now, as he kissed her forehead, all he could whisper was, "Who helped you? Who saved you?" Her voice was weak but steady. A boy, a black boy, young, maybe 13, 14. He pulled me out. He stayed with me. He didn't even wait for thanks. He just vanished. Evan blinked. In his world, people never helped without expecting something in return. Not without leverage, a transaction, an angle. Yet here was this nameless kid, drenched in rain, probably no older than his assistant's youngest son, risking his life to help a stranger. His wife's voice trembled with something rare. Reverence. Evan, find him. I need to thank him. And suddenly, the billionaire found himself with a mission. Not one that involved stock markets or quarterly reports. This mission had no boardroom, only blurry camera footage, second-hand descriptions, and the haunting image of a boy who had walked away before the world could see him. Evan mobilized resources the way only the ultra-wealthy can. He ordered his security team to pull every piece of street cam footage near the crash. He sent his PR rep to the local news stations to put out a call. Young black boy, 13 to 15, helped save my wife and unborn daughter in the rainstorm. Please come forward. No trouble. Just gratitude. For 3 days, silence. Thousands of tips poured in, mostly fakes. Some looking for reward money, some claiming to know a Malik or a Marcus who might have been there. But Evan noticed something. The people who claimed to be the boy always wanted something. Money. Fame. Even an internship at Blackstone Industries. But the real hero, the real boy, hadn't said a word, and that made Evan only more obsessed. He started going door to door in the neighborhood near the crash, asking local shopkeepers, talking to kids in parks, showing them a sketch artist's drawing based on his wife's description. Most just shook their heads. Some told him to get lost. He realized quickly. His tailored suits and luxury car didn't belong in that world. Not the way Malik's soaked hoodie and stitched-up backpack did. On the 5th day, in a corner store off Fulton Street, he found someone who recognized the drawing. An old man, owner of a struggling convenience store, nodded slowly. That looks like Malik Johnson. He comes in here sometimes. Good kid. Real quiet. You said he helped someone? Yeah, that sounds like him. Evan's heart raced. Where does he live? The old man gave an address, then added, but don't go there looking like that. You show up in a Rolls Royce around here, and you'll never see him. He'll think you're trouble. Evan did something he hadn't done in years. He took advice. He went back to his hotel, changed into jeans and a hoodie, and had his driver drop him 2 blocks away from the building. The apartment complex was worn down, graffiti-tagged, and leaning slightly to the left like it was tired of holding itself together. He climbed the stairs, past flickering hallway lights, and knocked on the door of Unit 3B. A tired woman answered. She looked like she'd worked 3 shifts in a row, and Evan suddenly realized how unfamiliar exhaustion looked when it wasn't behind a desk. Yes? She asked, eyeing him with suspicion. I'm looking for Malik, he said softly. Your son. He saved my wife's life 5 days ago. The woman's eyes widened. You're that tech guy? The one on the news? Evan nodded. Can I speak to him? She turned slightly. Malik, someone's here for you. Moments later, the boy stepped into view, still wearing that same stitched-up hoodie. Evan looked at him and felt his throat tighten. This was the kid. This was the boy who held his wife's hand when she thought she was going to die. Hi, Evan said, voice catching. I'm Evan Blackstone. I just wanted to thank you. You saved my family. Malik just looked at him, quiet, calm. I'm glad they're okay, he said, his voice barely more than a whisper. Evan reached into his jacket, pulling out a check. This is for you, whatever you need. Education, life, anything. But Malik didn't take it. He just stared at it like it was something heavy. I don't want your money, he said. Not like that. Evan was stunned. Then, what do you want? Malik looked up at him, finally meeting his eyes. Build a park in our neighborhood, he said. For the kids, a real one, with swings and grass. And make it so people stop looking at us like we don't belong here. That's all I want, not for me. For them. And in that moment, Evan Blackstone, billionaire, genius, king of algorithms, realized he was standing in front of someone richer than he'd ever be. Evan Blackstone wasn't a man who cried often, at least not where people could see him. But as he walked out of that modest apartment, something behind his eyes burned hot and unrelenting. He had offered a check that could have changed the boy's life. And yet, the boy asked for something that would change everyone else's. Not a dime for himself. No mansion. No private school. No fast-track job. Just a park. A safe space. A patch of green where childhood could be sacred. Not something constantly stolen by cracked concrete, sirens, and shattered dreams. Evan had spent years building things meant to disrupt the world. But today, a 14-year-old taught him that sometimes the most revolutionary act is to build something purely good. And so he did. 3 weeks later, the press exploded with headlines that no one saw coming. Blackstone donates $12 million to build community park in low-income area. But what they didn't know, what Evan refused to tell them, was that the money wasn't a donation. It was a promise. The construction began almost immediately. Evan didn't just send a team. He showed up himself, every day, in boots and jeans, talking to residents, asking them what they wanted, what they dreamed of. A basketball court with lights so the kids could play safely at night. A splash pad for the summer. Trees, real ones, tall and green, that would one day grow taller than the buildings around them. Benches for tired moms. Ramps for kids in wheelchairs. A wall where local artists could paint murals without being called vandals. Evan poured himself into it, not for the cameras, but for Malik. He invited Malik to the planning meetings, handed him a clipboard like he was the CEO. At first, Malik was quiet, unsure. But soon, he was sketching ideas, suggesting layouts, picking colors. And every time Evan saw the light grow in his eyes, he knew. This was what impact looked like. This was what legacy meant. But the world didn't understand. They asked Evan why he was spending so much time there, why he cared so much, why he wasn't focusing on his next billion-dollar company. And Evan only ever gave the same answer. Because someone helped my family without asking for anything. So now I'm asking myself what I can do with everything. The park opened 5 months later on a golden afternoon that felt like the city itself was finally breathing in something clean. The mayor came. News crews showed up. But none of them were the focus. At the center of the crowd stood Malik, now a little taller, holding oversized scissors next to Evan. When they cut the ribbon together, the crowd erupted. Kids ran toward the swings. Music played. Laughter bounced off the walls of nearby buildings. It was joy, raw and untamed, and Malik stood in the middle of it like he had planted a seed and was now watching it bloom. Evan knelt beside him. "You built this," he said. Malik looked at him, then at the park and shrugged. "No, we did." That night, after the crowd had thinned and the sun dipped low, Evan sat on one of the new benches. Malik sat beside him, sipping a soda. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Evan asked, "Why didn't you take the money?" Malik looked at him, thoughtful. "Because I saw something bigger than me," he said. "That day when I helped your wife, I didn't know who she was. I didn't care. I just saw someone scared and I didn't want her to feel alone." He paused, then added, "People see me and expect me to ask for things. But I don't want their money. I want them to see us, to stop walking past us like we're invisible. This park, it makes us seen." Evan nodded slowly. "You know, I built tech so people could connect. But I never realized the biggest connection I'd ever make was with a boy who just did the right thing." Malik smiled, not with pride, but with peace. And in that silence, the world felt still, like maybe, just maybe, it had shifted on its axis. Days turned into weeks, and the park became more than a space. It became a heartbeat, a place where kids played freely, where parents brought strollers and teenagers practiced dance routines, where murals of Malik and other local heroes stretched across the walls like living history. And Malik? He didn't fade into the background. He became a voice, a leader. He started speaking at youth events, organized cleanups. He even got a scholarship offer from a prestigious private school, courtesy of Evan. Not because he needed it, but because Evan knew the world needed Malik's mind, his heart, his vision. And Evan too changed. He didn't just write checks, he started mentoring, listening, lifting voices instead of always being the loudest in the room. His company began hiring from communities they once ignored. His boardroom now had chairs that were finally filled by people who looked like the ones they used to overlook. Years later, long after the headlines faded, Evan stood again in that same park, now named Malik's Place. He watched as his daughter, now 7, swung back and forth, laughter rising like music in the air. Malik stood nearby, now a young man, coaching a group of kids at the basketball court. Evan felt tears sting again, because he realized something. He had built many things in life, but the most important legacy he would ever leave came from a boy in a rainstorm who asked for nothing but a future for everyone else. And that was the day Evan finally understood. Sometimes, the richest people in the world don't carry wealth in their pockets. They carry it in their hearts.